Good morning and welcome to the Stephen Reich Memorial Assembly, my absolute favorite day, in a place where I have a lot of favorite days. I'd like to welcome our chorus to begin with our national anthem. Good morning. As I drove to school this morning, one phrase kept going through my head. Chippewa is a magical place. I know why it went through my head today, because we're here today. You have been treated and honored by this ceremony. This becomes your life lesson, your way to reflect on answering a call to citizenship, an important tenet in our school. I saw so many examples in that slideshow of Stephen answering a call to citizenship, ones that I never noticed before. I saw him shaking hands and looking an Afghani right in the eye as two people in the middle of a war-torn country. I saw him standing in Thailand, not as an American, but standing in a traditional pose of respect that comes from that culture. I saw him dipping his head in humility as he received yet another honor. I've watched you do that at our celebrations. You approach our podium and always our students' heads are a bit dipped, as though there's humility and maybe a little bit of embarrassment. I get it. And I often tell you, I understand the humility, I appreciate and respect it, but you hold your heads up high because you've earned these honors. I would tell the same thing to Stephen, and I would thank him about what he's given us today. The sacrifice that this young man made becomes your life lesson, your reflection, your teaching and learning today, and you are blessed. When I looked at the credits at the end of that film, his family wanted you to see all the places where their son has been honored. And it was a long list. It was a very long list. And what it represented to me as a mother, as a Marine mom, and as a Navy daughter, was a list of places that this family puts service above itself, puts grief below that service, makes it unimportant, puts their own personal pain aside and says it's important to honor that service. It's important to honor our country. Yes, it's important to honor our son. That's not an easy decision to make, and it's not one that has to be made. No one has to put themselves out in public as a part of something that is the saddest and most tragic part of their life, but they do. They do it because they understand a call to citizenship. Chippewa is a magical place. Because I know when I get up at this podium every year, I'm speaking to a group of young adults that get it. You understand why you're here. You listen so attentively and respectfully. You walk in a different way than you do in any other assembly. A little more quiet, a little more controlled. You get it. Chippewa is a magical place. You've grown up in a community like Stephen did that loves you and that respects you as learners. The reason why I know that is because so many of the community look forward to this each year, to sporting events in the cold, sometimes in the rain, or on a cold night in the winter. They look forward to our plays. They support you. They serve you. This is your call to citizenship. This is your time to learn, to reflect, and to think about what your call to citizenship will look like. I'd like to respect and honor some of our students who have made that decision. I've not seen him yet, but I've heard that John Swanson is here, and I'm very happy to tell you that he completed his preparatory program and will enter West Point in July. Thank you, John. I'm here to tell you that Sean Welsh was accepted at the same preparatory program as John Swanson, the Marion Military Institute, and I'm sure that next year I'll be congratulating him on his appointment to West Point. And Jordan Fredericks has entered the Army National Guard and will attend boot camp in summer when we're all at the beach. Thank you, Jordan. To each of you, as you begin your call to citizenship, I'd like to say that a grateful nation, this military mom and Navy daughter, salute you and thank you for your service. Many of you in this audience are thinking about your call to citizenship right now. I hope that this assembly frames not necessarily a military commitment, but one that says, I belong to something that is bigger than just me. Whether it's your family, Chippewa, or your loving and supportive community, know that you are blessed and know that you are loved. Make your decision with the confidence that you deserve by the hard work that you put in. Think about the sacrifices that have been made for you, and think about what that will look like in your own life. And think about what will happen in your life that represents the thank you that you feel in your heart as you listen to this assembly. Thank you very much. introduce Mike Kirsten.
Good morning, and welcome, members of the community, veterans, faculty, students, the chorus, and the technical crew that make this ceremony so special. I'd also like to recognize past recipients that are with us today: Allie Moravsky, Clayton Schneider, and Ethan Labella. With us here also, Stephen's parents, Ray and Sue Reich, his sister Megan, his sister Anne Marie, and her three boys, Zach, William, and Stephen. Part of my small special part in this is to introduce our guest speaker, but before that I would like to just we usually try to update everyone on some of the past year's awards, if you will, or honors that Stephen has received. One's a story, and one is something we announced last year regarding his induction into the Connecticut Coaches High School Association Hall of Fame. The first story is about a service dog. Stephen, Scott Werkhoven, Michael Condon, grew up with a young boy at the time who played Little League, I believe with Stephen's team, by the name of John Newhouse. And John's father, a few years ago, fell ill. And one of the things that John did was sponsored a service dog to help him through his last years. And John has continued that, and he sponsors a dog. And one of the things he gets to do when he sponsors a dog is he names it. And he thought it'd be a nice tribute to name Steve Riker, which we all kind of affectionately called Steven in our high school days around the athletic field, and we called him Riker. So he named his last dog in Steven's honor, Riker. So it's a nice honor. Last November, there was probably a group of about 30 of us, Steven's family, friends, former teammates. I think Dr. Constantino, as I recall, Principal Gallo, your athletic director, Matt Bracci. I'm probably forgetting a few, but there's about 30 of us that went down to the AquaTurf in Southington, and they honored Stephen posthumously with induction into the Connecticut Coaches High School Association Hall of Fame. There were probably about 6 or 7 people honored that night, and the coaches would come up and they would speak, and they were very grateful. And they talked about some of their past history and accomplishments, and they spoke to great assistant coaches and great players. And then Stephen was the last one. And Stephen's father, Ray Reich, got up and spoke, and he accepted the award very proudly. I bring this up because it really goes to Principal Gallo's point about in this day and age where I think it's easy, where we lack that. We see it on TV and sports a lot. You see it in a lot of walks of life. We see that lack of humility. Ray Wright got up there and spoke probably for about 7 or 8 minutes, very passionately, very gratefully, graciously. And he spoke not about Stephen's accomplishments. He didn't speak about what he had accomplished here and what a great pitcher he was, what a great military person he was. He spoke about this town and this community and how they rallied around their family back in June of 2005. And it's really telling of this community, as Principal Gallo points out, and points out really who Stephen Reich was. He accomplished a lot, and he accomplished a lot here before he left, and I saw that as one of his teammates. As a captain, as a senior, and he was a junior, and he was ahead of his time. And Mr. Reich spoke to that humility, if you will, and the spirit of this town, and how special it was, and how much Stephen loved that, and how lucky we are, and specifically the students here in this school, to be part of such a good community. Coaches, teachers, principals, parents, people that are watching out for you that try to give you the best. So it was really a special night, and Mr. Reich really did a tremendous job in speaking about this community. So it was really special. Before we bring up our guest speaker, I'd like to just say a few things regarding some of his accomplishments in his career. We have with us today Lieutenant Colonel David T. Borowitz. He's a 1992 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point with a degree in civil engineering. His initial assignment would lead him to become a platoon leader, company executive officer, assistant battalion officer, and battalion logistics officer. After receiving his master's in civil engineering in 2002 from the University of Wisconsin and an assignment at West Point, Lieutenant Colonel Borowitz was assigned to the 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum, New York as brigade engineer for 2nd Brigade and the battalion officer, executive officer for the 2nd VSTB. He would soon be deployed to Iraq for the next 15 months in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Upon return from Iraq, he returned to graduate school. In 2010, he would receive his PhD in civil and environmental engineering from the University of Wisconsin. He would return to the United States Military Academy as a member of the faculty. He was also at certain times an assistant baseball coach, including in 2012 and 2013 when the Black Knights reached the NCAA regionals. Soon after, he was once again deployed, this time to Afghanistan, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, utilizing his skills as an engineer to construct and develop sustainable infrastructure for the Afghan people. He has achieved and been honored with numerous awards, such as the Bronze Star Medal, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Joint Service Achievement Medal, the Army Achievement Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Afghan Campaign Medal, the Iraq Campaign Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, amongst others. And a lot of these medals and awards he's received multiple times. His connection with Stephen was he was a teammate for 3 years. He was a member of the Army baseball team, where he was in a starting rotation for 3 years. He ranks among the leaders in the Army career in ERA and innings pitched. He's an academic All-American and a Rhodes Scholar candidate as a senior. He currently is awaiting his next assignment to become the athletic director at the prep school, and he currently resides at the military academy with his wife Cindy, his daughters Maggie and Allison, and his son Josh. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Colonel David T. Borowitz.
Thank you so very much for the kind words and warm introduction. On behalf of my wife Cindy, the Army baseball family, and the United States Military Academy, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to spend this morning with you to honor the life and legacy of a dear friend and teammate, Stephen Reich. The Assembly today recognizes a student who embodies character, service, leadership, and achievement. And I hope to share some insights on a couple of those topics that I've learned over the past 25 years of military service. As I was preparing for today's assembly, I wanted to make sure that my remarks were both focused and practical. I'm an engineer by trade and engineer by school. I kind of like the so what behind things and how does this apply to me. So my comments are kind of directed at the 300 or so of you from the high school as how you can go ahead and display and improve both your character and your leadership. Character, because it's the foundation of true success. It guides your thoughts and actions and reveals exactly what kind of person you are. If you compromise on character, you do jeopardize your future. I thought it was important to also discuss leadership for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think the concept of leadership is often misunderstood. You know, the loudest person is the leader. Okay? That's not necessarily true, and we'll talk about why that is and what shape and form leadership can take. Secondly, you're the next generation of community, state, and national leaders. I just retired. I'm on my way out. You guys are on your way up. You're up and comers. And I want to be able to share with you, the teacher in me wants to share with you some lessons that I've learned along the way, so you don't have to, you can learn from my mistakes and learn from my experience and don't have to relearn things. If you ask 10 people for a definition of character, you undoubtedly get 10 different answers. We know it's a good thing, so more is better, right? More character is better. But how do we get it? And how do you measure it? You'll hear words like values, ethics, and morals. But what does it all mean? Well, whenever I'm struggling to understand a word or a meaning, I like to go back to the origin of the word. And the origin of the word character actually comes from the ancient Greek. In about 5 BC, they came up with a device to actually stamp or engrave on coins. So your Greek citizens would know, hey, I've got this in my pocket, it's worth X amount of cents. And over the years and through Latin over to Old English, the word actually became an example of a person's worth. Just like that coin was worth X amount of cents, your character tells you, or tells those around you, what you are worth. West Point considers character the bedrock of its leader development program, and the Army lists 7 core values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honesty, integrity, and personal courage as a measuring stick for character. But how does that pertain to us in our daily lives? How can we continue to display, to show and grow our character? Let me give you some thoughts about some ways you can make that happen. And they're in no particular order, and if you remember 1 or 2 of them, I think you'll be better off moving forward. First, avoid shortcuts. Right? The English department gives you some homework on Romeo and Juliet, and we could read it. That's like 40 pages. I don't want to do that. Cliff Notes, here I come. Or what's the one on, is it Shmoo or Schmuck or something like that on the internet, where you can go and look up everybody else's thoughts on Act 2 of Romeo and Juliet. Taking a shortcut is a slippery slope. You start passing others' work off as your own, and it just continues to snowball. Please avoid them. Put in the hard work. Do your due diligence. And avoid taking shortcuts. Secondly, tell the truth. As Grandma used to say, honesty is the best policy. Once you have that first lie, that first little omission of truth, you start building a house of cards, and it all can come down crashing upon you. Don't let that happen. Be honest in word and deed. Sometimes the truth might hurt, and it may not paint the best light on you, but you'll be better off for standing up and taking responsibility for your actions. This is one that I struggle with a lot still to this day. I continue to grow and show, and my wife, sitting down in the front row, will tell you this. Apologize. We're all going to screw up, despite what I think. You know, I'm not always right. And my wife tells me that on pretty much a daily basis. Right? But you're going to make mistakes. It's part of learning. It's part of growing as a person, as a part of being a human being. If you make a mistake, apologize. Folks will appreciate it and will show that you're dedicated to moving forward and making improvements in your life. Here's a good one. Volunteer to take or to draw the short straw. There are oftentimes there's a task at hand that our group needs done. Might not be the sexiest thing, might not be the thing that's going to put you in the limelight, but it has to get done. Volunteer to take that job. Show that you're dedicated to your group, to your mission, and that you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. Just like Dennis Rodman back in the day. Somebody's got to do the dirty work. Somebody's got to rebound. Somebody's got to take charges. Not everybody can score 20 a game. And last, as it pertains to character, is be a good teammate. And it's not sports specific. Okay? To your family, to your group, to whatever you're into, be a good teammate. Be positive, be supportive. Revel in the collective success. And this light's blaring down on me. I don't need that spotlight. I just need, deep in my heart, knowing that what we did was the right thing to do, and we were successful in doing it. Ben Franklin once said that well done is better than well said. Nothing could be more true than with character. Let your actions show your true colors. When I met Steve and the Reich family nearly 30 years ago, doesn't seem like it could possibly be that long. Seen Anne-Marie today for the first time since 1992. My goodness, how you've grown, kids. Wonderful. It was evident to me, their high character was evident to me right from the start. And it was this character that made Steve an amazing leader, both on the baseball field and on the field of battle. Throughout his life and his military career, he consistently rose to the top and was often put forth and shown as a tremendous leader. But what made him this way? Before we get too deep into that, we need to talk about leadership in general. Oftentimes, young people believe that you must be vocal and boisterous to be a leader. Not necessarily the case. Leadership comes in many shapes and sizes, and it is not reserved for a few chosen positions. No matter where you are, whether you're the starting quarterback or you're the third string punter, and nobody has a third string punter, but if you're that far down on the depth chart, you still have an opportunity to demonstrate leadership. Taking a look at it in a holistic view like such, I want to get now a little more specific and kind of explain some traits I've seen in good leaders and use my experience with Steve as a lens to look at these traits and how he personally impacted me and showed me how to be a successful leader. First and foremost, you have to be an example for those around you. Give your best each and every day. Can't be one time a week thing, show up to practice, show up to class. You've got to give your best each and every day. And Stephen did that in spades. There was no guy, Steve was tremendously talented, no doubt about it, but nobody outworked him. You've got to put the time in, you've got to do your work, and be an example for those around you. And you can't be afraid to fail. You've got to go ahead and put yourself out there. Grab the proverbial ball, take the mound, and even if you don't have your best stuff that day, go out and compete and show others the way. Next, you need to enforce standards and elevate those around you to them. Okay, too oftentimes, the standard might be a little too high, or we may seem it or think it to be too high, and so we just lower the standard. Not so. It's a slippery slope, you don't want it to happen. Every spring we came back from Christmas vacation and we get ready to go kind of our preseason workouts for baseball team. Everybody on the team had to run a 6-minute mile. The fact that I used to be able to do that still surprises me, but it ain't happening now, but everybody had to run a 6-minute mile. That was the standard. And if you didn't do it, everybody did it again. I came back my sophomore year knowing Steve was going to be the guy to beat. Between him and Glenn Donald, they were both very gifted runners. So I came back in the best shape of my life. neck and neck with Steve the whole way until that last turn, and he kind of gave me that crap-eating grin in the turn and blew me away down the backstretch. Yeah, you're close, Dave. You're close for the standard, but you're never going to get it. He held that standard, and he dragged me to him. I ran a 5-something mile. I don't know how that happened, but I did. I ran a 5-something mile because I was chasing the example. I was chasing the standard that Stephen set. Empathy. You've got to have empathy as a leader. You've got to be able to put yourself in others' shoes, understand their situation, and then make a decision that takes into account all their input. You've got to be grounded and balanced. Grounded in your family, grounded in your faith. You know, whenever Steve would get a little too big for his britches, I'm sure that Megan and Anne Marie would be the first to bring him back to life, keep him grounded. And balance is we all struggle with. I know I struggled with it mightily throughout my military career. Job, family. You've got to keep that balance. Stephen was able to do that. You look at some of those pictures and what he was able to do and all the different interests he had and how he kept himself grounded. It was just amazing. Passionate. A leader has to have passion. You've got to bring that excitement and you've got to bring that energy. Love what you do and do what you love. You have to be all in. And that passion for baseball, passion for teammates, Stephen was able to take with him as he entered military service and showed that same passion for special aviation's operations and his Night Stalker comrades. And finally, you have to be approachable. If you're going to be a leader, if your people are afraid to engage you, you're not going to be able to go ahead and influence their lives. Stephen could strike up a conversation with anybody. And you could see from the variety of pictures across different lands, across different languages, he was able to communicate, open himself up to folks, and be approachable. It's a key and often overlooked aspect of leadership. Now, in highlighting these traits, my goal is to expose you to some of what made Stephen a great leader. But each of you must find your own voice. Believe me, there's never going to be another Stephen Reich. But we all have different strengths. We all have different ways we can contribute. Find your voice, find your own recipe for success. Strive to be like Stephen. Strive to be what he stood for. But we must do it within the context of who we are as individuals. So as I bring this to a close, some things, if you're going to just remember a couple things. Character is the foundation of leadership, and quality leadership inspires greatness in groups of like-minded people. Both are a little mysterious. Both require constant work. I'm 29 and holding, almost 50 now, okay? But we've got to make sure on a daily basis, I can improve. I can make strides. I can take steps to show and grow my character and work on my individual leadership skills. I'd like to thank you for your time. It was truly a blessing and an honor to be here to address you today. There's no place I would rather be than here with the Reich family and this community. Thank you so much. God bless.
Good morning. Lieutenant Colonel Gorwitz, thank you for joining us here today. Mr. Jaws is going to get you. Good listening skills. The Stephen Reich Memorial Award is given annually to a Chappaqua student based on his or her character, service, leadership, and achievement. This award was established in 2006 to honor the service and sacrifice of Major Stephen Reich, who was killed in action in Afghanistan in June 2005. We present this award each year just before Memorial Day, so we can honor and remember not only Stephen, but all of those who have given their lives for our country. Through this award, we get to recognize one of our own students and how they have demonstrated the qualities of this award. But this award is more than about recognizing one student. It is about all of us and provides an example of a life well lived. When this award was first introduced, the criteria were left intentionally broad so all Chappaqua students could be considered. Maybe you're not so sure about that, but think about the criteria. Every one of us has the capacity to demonstrate these characteristics, although we may do so in different ways. Character. We can all demonstrate character through our conduct. Service. We can all contribute to our school and to our community. Leadership. Can be quiet or vocal. We've just heard a lot of examples about how every one of us can show leadership. Achievement. Getting the most out of your abilities, whatever they are. We all have different abilities. One thing we need to remember is that Stephen was and is one of you. He sat in this auditorium, took classes in the same rooms, walked the same hallways. He was not perfect. He was a normal high school student. This award is not meant to idealize him. It is meant to remind us all that each of us can demonstrate character, service, leadership, and achievement. Yes, Stephen was talented, but talent alone, regardless of what the talent is, only takes you so far. There's no substitute for hard work and persistence. Many of Stephen's achievements were significant. To understand how he was able to achieve what he did, we need to talk about a four-letter word. Lieutenant Colonel Borowitz mentioned it before, the F word, fail. Too often, we think of failure as the end result rather than as part of the process. When we think of failing as the end, we cannot move forward. We need to treat failure as a stepping stone to what's next. What changes or adjustments can you make? Stephen did not achieve what he did by succeeding all the time. He achieved what he did by failing, from learning from those experiences and working harder. All of us can do that once we recognize failure as a means to improve. Challenge yourselves. Build on the successes you have along the way. Learn from your failures and work to improve shortcomings. Stephen was able to do this, and so can you. Set goals, work hard to achieve them, then raise the bar. We can't all accomplish the same things, in part because we don't all want to accomplish the same things. Some of you may remember the documentary Fox Sports produced a couple of years ago. They found footage of interviews with Stephen to use in the film. There was a clip of him talking about why he chose West Point. I don't remember the exact quote, but his answer was something along the lines of, I wanted to see if I could measure up. This was his way of challenging himself to raise his expectations. We can all raise the expectations we have for ourselves. We can all challenge ourselves to improve. And we can all pick ourselves up from a failure, resolve to keep going and work hard. So this award is not about what you have done, but about what you can accomplish with the right combination of hard work and persistence. This is about what you can do when you're not afraid to fail, and what you can do when you learn from your missteps and your shortcomings. This award is meant to help us raise our expectations and remind us of what is possible. This award reminds us that achievement is born from failure, from working hard, and from persistence. So as we celebrate Memorial Day on Monday, let us remember the service and sacrifice of all who have given their lives for our freedom. We are very fortunate to live in this country, to live in this community, and to attend this school. We are free to have an education, free to worship in the manner we choose, and free from fear. And this is not the case in some parts of the world. We are free to make mistakes, to get up, work harder, and try again. But we need to remember our freedom comes with a price. Those who have stood watch and protect us from those who wish us harm have borne that cost. Those who have died and their families have borne that cost. By remembering one of our own, we remember all who have served and all who have given their last full measure. At this time, I would like to invite Anne Marie, one of Stephen's sisters, to join me in the presentation of the award. I want to share a little bit of what was written about the recipient of this award. Teachers offered praise for this student's persistence and work ethic, remarked that this student does what they believe is right. The teacher wrote, "This student is nice to everyone and a role model to all students at Chappaq." Another teacher wrote, "This student, quote, gives me hope for the future." And a fellow student wrote that this student is a kind and caring person who strongly exemplifies the criteria for this award. It is my pleasure to present the 2017 Stephen Reich Memorial Award to Maddie Court.
I'm loud enough, that's all right. This concludes our ceremony. I just want to thank Lieutenant Colonel David Horowitz again for spending time with us. Congratulations to Maddie, well deserved. And thank you for all for making such a memorable ceremony. Enjoy the day.